Okay, so the first step is to attach the cake board to the turntable using painter's tape. This is the first step I do before preparing or decorating any cakes. The reason I do this step is to make sure that while you're stacking and decorating and filling, doing anything with a cake, it does not shift or move. Okay, so the second step is measuring out each cake before I cut them, just to make sure each layer is exactly even. So I'm taking my ruler along with my edible marker, and then I'm gonna mark out 1 inch. It doesn't necessarily have to be 1 inch. It can be whatever thickness that you want, but this ensures that each layer is even. The brand I use is Sugar Bell, and you can get this from Michael's. Also, I just wanted to let you know that when I'm doing this process, my cakes are fresh out the freezer. I left them freeze overnight after baking them. This is to make sure that they're stable when I'm trying to put them together. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to cut your cake layers 3 different ways. Whichever way you feel is easier for you, you can choose one. I'm using a serrated knife to cut my cake layers, and as you can see, like I told you, the cake is frozen, and I'm turning it around just to make sure that I'm hitting each marking. This is the second way of cutting it. I feel like this is the most difficult, to be honest, because you're gonna have to keep rotating your cake to make sure you're hitting each marking. So this is the final way of cutting it. What I'm doing here is just scoring softly on each marking before I cut through. So you can actually use the scoring as a guideline. And here's the scoring method again, just to show you one more time as I cut my last layer. Okay, so now we're gonna move along to the next step. I'm just putting a little bit of buttercream on the cake board just to make sure that the cake doesn't move while we're filling, stacking, and decorating it. This is the easiest way to fill your cakes with buttercream. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I fill my cakes with filling. I'm just piping a border around the cake with buttercream, and then I'm going to pour in my strawberry preserves. The reason why I pipe the border first is to make sure that the cake does not slide. And also, you want to make sure that each space in between your cake layers are completely even and uniform. So when you cut them open, everything will look the same. Okay, so I just want to show you right here why I measure out each cake layer, because at the end my cake is completely level, and I'm going to show you after I put my next layer on, which is the final layer. So yeah, here you can see that the cake is completely level. Okay, so my bottom layer was a bit wider than the other layers, so I'm just doing a quick carve. So the final step is a crumb coat, which is adding a thin layer of buttercream to trap any crumbs that's at the side of the cake layers. now that I got the thin layer around the cake, what I'm doing here is scraping off the excess with a bench scraper. So when the buttercream starts to build on the bench scraper, you're just going to scrape that off on the side of your bowl. And the reason that we use the bench scraper is just to smooth the icing on the sides of the cake. This prepares it for fondant, or if you're doing a buttercream cake, the icing that's going to be the outer layer. Okay, so now we're going to ice the top of the cake with our buttercream using an angled spatula. So this next part is a little hard to explain. You can see it better than I can explain it. I'm just making sure that the top layer is even using the angled spatula, and then I'm turning the turntable at the same exact time. I hope that helps. Now I'm just scraping the final layer with the bench scraper. Now you're going to grab your angled spatula again, and then you're going to gently push the layer of buttercream that's sticking out at the top inward. After the step is done, you're going to chill your cake for a minimum of 30 minutes before decorating.